conservatives don't do well on the internet. They know how to advertise. But it's the truth.
Right.
Conservatives don't do well on the internet. They just don't. They don't know how to use it properly. But it's again, it's this whole thing where it's the left side, and I'm not even trying to get political because I don't care left or right.
No, I don't either.
But it's apparent the left side has a stranglehold. They really monopolize cancel culture.
Welcome to Camping for Assholes.
Destroyed a portion of society.
I think it most certainly has fucking destroyed a lot. I think the fun part about
no social networking, there'd be no cancel culture right now.
There always was. It just was quiet.
I know,
you could never
but it would
hear
still
it.
just be the religious people screaming about like Kiss and their goddamn album art and shit like that.
But that's it. That's what that is. It's still there, but it flips sides. Like everyone that all the cancel culture now is on the other side of things. Like
it flips sides, and it's way more powerful now.
Yeah,
everybody knows. You're outed in the public square.
But that's the thing. That's the only reason you're outed is because you give it that power. People care what happens on Twitter. Like they shouldn't.
But they don't. That's the thing. It's like they don't. What's running cancel culture is companies. I mean, really, people don't care.
What about so Joe Rogan has like free reign to. He just he doesn't look at it. He fucking what does he call it? Post and ghost. You fucking drop a bomb. You never fucking look at it. You don't care. And then everyone hates on you, and you ignore it. You come right back and do your own shit.
Joe Rogan's also protected because he's the world's biggest podcaster, and Spotify will go through hell to keep him there. Well,
at the same time, the way I look at it too, with social networking and social media, essentially what it is think of the amount of shit talk that you could do in a bar if you knew there was an unbreakable pane of glass between you and the asshole right next to you.
I still don't think people would do it. You may get a couple more. I still don't think people would do it.
The threat of that fucking punch to the face.
I think it's more. I think some people can't. How many times have you met someone who can't fucking return an item of clothing at like Kohl's because they can't face the person?
They can't handle conflict.
Or you'll eat a shit meal.
I'm kind of
one of those people.
I'm kind of like that. I don't like people that much face to face anyway, and like it's getting worse. but
I think the internet really is you don't have to face anybody.
But that's not. I don't troll on the internet because I don't want to face. Like I guess I kind of did at the beginning of
we all
this
have
whole mess. But the part of it is like this. We give it this power that it can cancel you, that it can shut you down, that it can do all these things. But in reality, like that's just a fanciful outcome that we have created. Like it doesn't have to do that. We don't have to choose to support some of this stuff. Sometimes
but
it's
that's
valid.
Why these people end up getting canceled.
Well, sometimes they do really shitty stuff, and other times they don't. So it's like,
but here's the thing: like what I was saying is, the people aren't canceling people. That's not what's going on.
No, they're trying to cancel.
People aren't canceling people. Companies are canceling people.
Well, it's not exactly that clear cut either, though, because
the
companies will drop
because they're afraid that they'll be associated with that person.
Right. If it's a political stance, I could see a company like if any kind of mild complaint comes to somebody's side, then they'll be like, okay, now we can get rid of them because there's a buzz that they're a shitty person. Like we've seen that happen through Disney and other entities or whatever.
It's happened for years in the NFL, though, as well. It all depends how good you are at your job, is how susceptible to cancel culture you are.
No, I'll tell you exactly. This is all about virtue signaling and everyone circle jerking each other with it all starts with the media, right? No CEO wants to have the media saying something about their employee. And then what's going to happen is all the other companies, because everyone's a circle jerk, how the economy works. Everyone advertises on everybody's platform. So Disney, let's look at Gina Carano. This is exactly what happens every time. Because every time you see a cancel of notoriety, it has to do with a company. Now they got rid of Gina Carano because Disney has a bunch of advertisers in the platform, and everybody's gonna virtue signal to the fucking bottom. And what's gonna happen is we'll pull just, and it happened with who's that guy? Bill O'Reilly. Remember him from Fox News?
Yep.
Right. He got canceled or whatever, that whole thing, because of whatever. It doesn't even matter if it was true or right, if it actually happened or not, because it never came out if it did. But he left because, and Mercedes-Benz came out and they're like, we're pulling our ads from Bill O'Reilly's show. They never had ads on Bill O'Reilly's show. They just came out and said that so they can virtue signal to the fucking bottom of the fucking pit. And that's how all these places work. You never see an actual uprising on Twitter, or you see your same Twitter users. The average person doesn't even use fucking Twitter. The average person doesn't even know who's being canceled at the time.
I actually had to
until it already has happened. What's that?
I actually had to get rid of my Twitter account.
I've never even had one.
Me either.
I had one, and then I would just get drunk and start tweeting at random people that pissed me off.
Are we recording, by the way?
Yes, yeah. This is episode 3 tonight, boys. See, I'm sneaky like that, Scott. Welcome to the party.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just, it's all manufactured rage. Nobody cared. No one even knew Gina Carano said that about Israel.
Well, Gina Carano was a UFC fighter.
Yeah.
Nobody took that into account. It's like, well, she has these viewpoints. It's like, she's literally trained her entire life to take the fuck you stance to anyone who tries to oppose her.
Well, see, this is we're muddling up like a lot of different. What she did was not fireable to most people if you at face value, but because there was an agenda behind that firing, that's what got her fired. But there, it's a political stance. It's not being of the right mindset for that company.
But that's it, Jared. Everything is political. Cancel culture is purely political. There's nothing non-political about it.
Sure, but it's not different. It's just the age and time, because who were the people that were fighting against Marilyn Manson albums? It was, the far right. They didn't want to fucking...
But they never got canceled.
Yeah, because you couldn't have... If the internet existed, then they would be the cancel culture at that time.
If the internet existed and it fell in line with whoever was in power politically, that's what would have happened. But typically... conservatives don't do well on the internet. They know how to advertise. It's the truth.
Right.
Conservatives don't do well on the internet. They just don't. They don't know how to use it properly. But it's again, it's this whole thing where it's the left side, and I'm not even trying to get political because I don't care left or right.
No, I don't either.
But it's apparent the left side has a stranglehold. They really monopolize cancel culture. Period.
Well, it's a way of thinking just aligns with their agendas. So anybody that's getting canceled is usually people that aren't, if you're not woke or you're not PC enough, or if you're not, their agendas just tie into that, and they're also
right.
But
that's what's crazy. How many people do you know who are woke as fuck? How many? Not many. We all say this shit in secret.
The fact
I've never met someone who's that fucking woke.
Like, who's woke as fuck?
Yeah, nobody. Like some cartoon characters in the city, maybe, like that go to the universities and stuff. Maybe those cartoon characters, but nobody. Normal people are not that woke.
I kind of like looking at like a lot of this stuff where like if you switch on like PC culture a little bit, like I'm more patient. I'm more patient about people being ignorant. You know what I mean? Like I have a more like if somebody slips up, it's like, okay, look at their upbringing, look at where they're coming from, look at their mindset. Okay, they said what? Well, that's pretty shitty that they said that, but I can understand why they said that. But what happens on Twitter is somebody says something and it has nothing to do with how the woke people are attacking. And then you get this mess of cancel culture that's like coming down. Like Gina Carano like made a post. What was it exactly? It was
she compared with the left to Nazism.
Kind of, yeah. It was like it was something to do with like, oh, you first they turn your neighbors on you or something like that, and that's what happened in Nazi Germany. Not the greatest comparison because it's not like that, but you can connect it. You could say it's in the ballpark ish. But
I mean, yeah, you can see it.
You've all made a bad analogy.
But she didn't post it in the intent of like, you know what I mean? Like her intention behind it wasn't
right
what they said it was. So therefore, instead of just being like, well, what'd you mean by that? Or like asking the source, like maybe wouldn't that be a beautiful scenario? Imagine a Twitter. Let's say I go on and I say something horrible. I say something against pine trees. Like pine trees are really bad for your yard because they just destroy your grass. Like, no, I know this is a stretch. Just hang with me here. So I post that on Twitter, and then the mob comes at me. But before they scream or yell at me, they go, "Why did you post this?" And then you got a chance to explain yourself before you know you're even in hot water. Man. And then you can just be like, oh, well, because the acidity in the pine needles, when they degrade, they have a negative effect on grass follicles, causing them to brown out when the sun hits them at a 45-degree angle. Holy shit. This guy just came from a
grass is dead?
scientific angle, and it's explained. But that's what I mean. Like, if they would calmly approach Gina Carano and been like, hey, your post right here, what did you mean by this? And then she just explains it before anybody else gets fired up about it. Can you take that explanation and just be like, holy shit, and look at things in a different light? Because what's happening is you have a thought, you type it up, and you put it out there, and then all of a sudden you're fucking, before you can even explain yourself, you're already canceled. Before you can even say, but, no, shut you down. You're fucking shut down. You don't get to explain yourself. But I didn't mean that. It was a joke about, no, you're shut down.
But
like,
that's my problem that I have with this. Is like there is no explanation point anymore. Everybody starts on the sliding scale of 1 to 10, they start at a fucking 15. That's where everybody starts at now.
Yep.
Are you talking about the cancelees?
Nobody asks for if it's on both sides. Everybody starts at a 15. It's like you start off, you might have posted something with good intentions, and it got misheard, and somebody came at you at a level of 15. Well, your first reaction at that point is like, well, I'm not gonna sit down and take this. I'm gonna come back at you with that same energy.
I've had
go ahead, Jared.
I had those moments like online where like I would post something. I remember one time I was pissed because I forgot garbage stickers. So I in our
That's
town.
A serious thing in this town.
Just so you guys know, you have to purchase a garbage sticker, put it on your can of garbage, and then they take your garbage away. If you don't have a ticket, then they don't take your garbage away. But the problem is, if you don't put a ticket on it, they're supposed to put a note that you owe an extra one the following week. Well, they don't do that anymore. They'll just just leave it. They just leave it. They won't take your garbage. So I forgot a garbage sticker, and I went online the next day. I was like, God damn it, can this city just get away from garbage stickers? And then I got like 6 of these responses. Just buy a garbage sticker, you lazy asshole. Like... And then I'm fired up. Then I'm like, I'm pacing around looking at my phone like, you piece of shit. You piece of shit. I'm going to fuck you. I'm going to get you. And then I say like, yeah, you're right.
The issue I had with the garbage stickers, the one time I forgot them, rather than just leaving my garbage where I had it, they felt the necessity to drag my can halfway across my lawn and prop my can up underneath my tree. So I had to like walk through branches and shit to go get my garbage.
Really?
Yeah, that's messed up.
But I would cancel that. I'd cancel that.
But rewinding, but here's the thing, Jared. Like you use this example and you got trolled a little bit, right?
Yeah.
But here's the thing: you never would have been canceled for that post. Never.
No,
unless someone found a reason for it to be political, right? And going back to Scott's point is that the tribalism has gotten so bad, and this is thanks to our political parties. It's gotten so bad to the point where, and that's why everyone tries to separate cancel culture as a separate issue. It's a political problem. It's politics. It's all it is. And you can bitch about beavers fucking up your, I don't know, wood boat or something, unless somehow like a person who is a beaver enthusiast and then that goes to PETA, and then PETA goes to you're nothing but a Nazi for killing beavers, and just it can get that far, but it has to make that link for it to be cancelable, right? You can't have it the other way around. I mean, look at our election now. I mean, I'll dive into this. Like, say what you want about Donald Trump. The guy's a fucking turd, right? The guy's a complete fucking turd. Did we turn into Nazi America? Were we at all in danger of becoming Nazis?
No.
But there's people who still believe that. Now Joe Biden's in office, right? Time will tell. I have my own personal beliefs, but are we on the verge of like, is everybody, are we all gay, and are we all like, just our society has turned a blind eye to our own self-responsibility and blamed it all on political parties, all of it.
And we need to get rid of political parties.
Essentially what it is,
we need
I think, is that, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Essentially what I think it is that there's a lot of people who are really pissed off sitting behind their computer screens, because that's all we've had time to do for the past year while we've been on lockdown, is just sit behind our computer screens and our TV and everything. We were told, don't go anywhere, don't do anything. Like, if you're like me and you're sit around doing nothing most of the time, this was great. I just got time to catch up on all my shows, and I had an excuse to not go hang out with people.
But this shit really ramped up before that, though.
These same people, though, they're mad at something. And what social networking has done, especially with like Twitter and things like that, is it allows you to backlog through like the past 5 years now of however long somebody had been posting things, and you just get to pick the one thing out that contradicts and points out something wrong with that person, and you just get to attack it now. All social networking does is give you a backlog of history, essentially, to just go out and try and destroy someone. And that's what we're using it as.
Well,
that's not what you said last time. Here, I have physical evidence of it now.
Well, it's almost like political races has become what social media is on the backside of things. Everything you've said and done is documented, therefore it can be used against you at any point in time. But then you forget the context of the time. What was there was a few, the Dr. Seuss books and all that stuff that had to be no longer sold because it was at a time where they did this and this and this. And it's like, well, yeah, but that's also what it was. Like, I don't understand that mentality. I don't know. Well, not even to like get way off.
Well, let me ask you this. Here, this is interesting. Are you in favor of tearing down Confederate statues?
Of horrible people?
Yeah.
Are they presented in a way where it's obvious they were horrible people?
The statues?
Yes.
No, they're statues in memorandum of, like, let's say Robert E. Lee. A statue of him riding a horse with a saber in the air.
This is a tricky stance or position.
I gave you a really hard question.
Yeah. Thanks. Well, this is how I feel, but I don't have much emotion for it either way. But I would be more in favor of it if it was like obvious evil, like we were praising somebody that was evil, or we made it clear that they were a piece of shit, but it's part of a history. I think like some of the statues made sense that they tear down. Do I think it's a necessity? Do I think it's changing anything? I don't know.
Well, the reason why I asked that is because I personally feel the same way as I do about the Dr. Seuss books, right? Like, everybody wants to change them, but really, I think there's a danger to canceling things that are part of our history. You can cancel a person, but once you start canceling things that are part of our history, I think that's exceptionally dangerous. When we start banning books,
Yeah, that should never happen.
And what's that old saying? Those who forget their history are doomed to repeat it.
exactly.
Well, I don't know if getting rid of some statues that are like put out in a display of like positivity when there was a shitty person, I don't know if that fits in the same boat. I don't think that's the same area or territory as.
Right. And I at face value, I agree with you, but like, for instance, one of the Robert E. Lee memorials was placed, and a lot of people don't even know the history of this, was placed in a cemetery. Do you know what the cemetery was? Cemetery was for all the Confederate and these Union soldiers, and it was put there as a slam to him that, like, look, Abraham Lincoln ordered this. He did it as a slam to Robert E. Lee, is like, look what you did, look all the bodies you've created, and put him in there. And that statue essentially was, wanted to be, they wanted to ban that. And it starts with statues, right? And that's the thing, is like canceling history, I think, is very tricky, because you open up the floodgates for something like that. Where does it stop? I mean, they've already talked about, there's certain books you can't read anymore. You can't read Huckleberry Finn and Tom Sawyer. You can't read that anymore.
Yeah.
Well, why? Because the N-word was in there. Well, that word was spoken, good or bad. It doesn't matter. That word was spoken.
Couldn't they like, why restrict or get rid of a book? Why not just age restrict it to a point of maturity where you read it and then you can come at it from a more of logical, I'm looking at something that, because you don't want, I understand the notion of like, you don't want that to be read by a 10-year-old, but at the same strings, you like an 18-year-old going back on classical literature and reading and understanding like histories and how stories were written and how people talked and understanding. Like, I think that's important too. So it's like, there's always gray area, but I feel like we always work in extremes where it's just like, take it or leave it. It's not that simple.
It just seems that cancel culture takes the easiest, lowest hanging fruit. They operate on just pure emotion. They don't think what a great opportunity. Let's read this 5th grade class. Let's go through Tom Sawyer. And why do they call him N-word Jim? And is that nice? Why do they what a great opportunity to teach these kids where that word came from, why that word is derogatory, why you should never use that word, in the history of the word. What a great opportunity.
But there's a great debate on when you're old enough to really take that in and understand it. I would debate you and say that a 5th grader is not mature enough to handle that information, but somebody in a later high school year could take that information and learn a valuable lesson. So,
well, let me tell you what, I'll counter that. And I've been to Milwaukee public schools where the N-word goes flying around like crazy at 3rd grade. Like, the N-word was no mystery to me, used by both people who are being racist and both people who are being ignorant. And I think people can put that together. Using that word, calling each other that word in a derogatory way, and then white kids calling black kids that word, or white people talking to white people.
Are you saying that's a positive thing because it's exposed and they understand it, or because
I think you need to expose it?
Because
I really do.
Your example is almost giving my point power because of the way it was used, out of ignorance, out of
what
hate.
I'm saying is they were using that stuff before anybody decided. Why are we holding things back because of age? Why aren't we just talking about things in an open space and saying, look, this, just like you would yell at your kid for saying fuck. Why all of a sudden that word holds weight?
Right, but I'm saying that the kids are using it and there is no parenting stepping in and making any kind of like conscious effort on it. But if we make moves to like, I guess that's a very tricky and debatable subject, because you have to look at like the psychology of a child. And like,
no, see, I think that's where we get in trouble. I think we get in trouble by mincing and start splitting hairs about all these things. Nobody had problems with the kids. Used to be super obedient, and you can argue if that's good or bad thing. But we're trying to get kids to stop, or people stop being racist, right? And I think one of the ways you stop doing that is you stop doing all these, like, we have come so far in psychological research in children, and somehow they're not getting any better.
Well,
Maybe we're just
there is a parental flaw that is part of our generation and prior generations that I agree. I agree. There is
but
how
you
do
know
you
why?
what's the proper way to explain something like that? But I believe that I believe racism is dying at its heart.
I
I feel
believe
like
that too.
every generation that comes forward, it's less and less, and it's on its way out. But like if you present it to a younger like when you always have that in your lessons for a young person to get the exposure, but not have the actual understanding of what you're telling them, then they could take it the wrong way, and then they might. It might enhance that experience, but eventually, either way, no matter what we're talking about right now, I predict in the future, no matter which way they go with this, that racism will eventually die. That's inevitable. It might just take longer.
We'll give it a second here because this might actually kind of help out a little bit with this. How old is old enough to watch either an R-rated movie or play an M-rated game?
It's up to the parents.
Such
I'm serious. I'm dead serious on that answer.
Like all the way across.
How old is old enough for your kid?
Well, okay, so I would say I guess that's a fair enough question. Everyone would look at that differently because your kid, you know what they can handle. Like
exactly. That's exactly
my
my
son
point.
watches a lot of nature channels and he's exposed to a lot of animals, killing animals and all this crazy shit. He's a boy, he's all full of energy. So like we've already watched Jurassic Park and he's fucking 6. Like but he loves dinosaurs. So I don't what I mean? Like
if it was a war movie, I let him watch it younger. If it was a movie that's straight up trash and sex and whatever else, no, he can wait until he's 18 to get his rocks off and see that stuff,
That's my point, is there's a lot of people out there right now that don't have that sense to pre-read or preview whatever they're exposing their kid to.
I laugh.
They're expecting the age rating and everything that's written on the box to do everything for them, or they're just not paying attention to it. Then they're getting mad when their kid starts emulating whatever happened during the game or the movie.
I'm sure some of you have had this experience. Have you ever met or talked to somebody where their kid is playing Grand Theft Auto and you kind of look at them like, do you really think they should be playing Grand Theft Auto? Have you guys had that experience or no?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Josh, did you say yes or no?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. That's a thing. Like a 12-year-old playing Grand Theft Auto and you're just like, you let your kid play fucking Grand. Oh yeah, I don't let him do the other stuff. No, he's jacking off and doing everything he possibly can when you're not watching in that game.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, no shit.
It's like you were a child at one point. You know what you did.
Nothing was
How
hidden.
do you not think that kid's gonna do it?
When I grew up, I looked at Playboys. By the time I was like in 5th grade, I don't even know how young I was when I first masturbated. But I was pretty goddamn young. I think when it comes to like sex stuff, it's like that should be talked about earlier on. I agree with that side of things, but
but the points we're making is kind of but the points we're making is kind of what my point overall is that like what you were saying, Scott, about like parents relying on like fucking the ad ratings. Or people relying on, that's my whole point, is that parents don't have a stake in their children anymore because they rely on government institutions to parent their kids for them. It says rated R. I'm not going to let my kid watch this until it's rated R. I can't figure out what PG-13 is. I'm going to let the school decide, but we all sat here and said each kid is different. Each kid has to handle something a little differently. Well, who knows that better than the parents? But we live in a culture where we prop the school system up so much, which, mind you, it does not a very good job for the money that we spend compared to other countries. It does not do a very good job. And parents kind of it's like dropping off your kids for school is not like when I got dropped off for school, right? There is parents that leave their kids there all freaking day. And it's just like, like their kids home at 6. They go to bed at 7:30, 8. We work our jobs way longer. We don't spend a lot of time with our kids when they come home from school. school institutions have really, my opinion, has just overstepped their bounds, and parents kind of just became complacent with it, and they basically it never used to be that way. Parents used to have a strong hand in what they taught their kids. But now, we're getting to things like, because of cancel culture, I'm still relating this topic, we're getting things to like CTR. And now you're teaching your kid, it's not teaching your kids math and reading and English anymore. Now it's teaching kids, well, how should you act in society? That's indoctrination. And that's kind of what I'm getting at with all this, is that parents need to have, and if you don't like what a parent is doing, that's none of your fucking business. Because at some point in that poor bred gene pool, like, they will become scum of society and they will just like go away, right? There's no self-responsibility anymore. Like, if your kid goes to jail, your kid goes to jail, right? But everyone's so worried about what everybody else is doing because of this, all related to cancel culture and the internet and social media. Oh, I saw his kid playing GTA. I'm going to email my senator about it, and let's put pressure on this family and now let's blame video games for our kids for violence and school shootings and shit like that. This is what happens. Everyone needs to mind their own fucking business and parent their kids.
But I still had my judgment, though.
You can, and you absolutely can, but just don't be friends with that person.
Like, you can have your judgment, you can have your opinion,
but it's not valid unless they're dead.
Screaming at someone else over the internet.
I'm not happy unless they're all dead. Everyone that's against my opinion.
There's never really an outpouring of positivity. It's like, look how this person handled this. That's a rare story that you see on the internet.
Oh, yeah. Well, shit, man. If you need to kill them,
for the most part, the only thing you see is like the only people you see posting for the most part are people who are pissed about something.
Yeah, that's true. Well, and if you need to kill them, kill them. Just don't legislate. Just stop legislating over it. Kill them. I don't care. It's your life.
Stop. No.
Well, I don't.
I get it. Like, I don't know. Like, it's a fucking. It's because of the way people were raised that exists. You know what I mean? That's a fucking. I don't know what that fart was about, but
I'm just I got me all fired up.
You are fired up. Look at you. You're uncomfortable. You're sweating.
I get so fired up about this shit because it's just so. It's like
who are these people? Who are they? Do you know anybody that's a Twitter fucking canceler?
That's what I'm saying.
Are they real people?
I don't know.
Out of everybody I know, it's not like I've seen them though. I see them in my friends' list.
For anybody watching this, I don't want
Bill Burr made a joke about it at one point too. It's like,
yeah,
part of the reason I believe in the whole internet thing is ruining society is because Bill Burr made a joke about it where he was talking. It's like, well, there's one guy in the grocery store who goes off and goes on this giant rant about something completely miserable as a human being to be going off about, and nobody stops him.
Yeah.
But there's always that one or two assholes on the other side who are sitting there listening. It's like, he's got a good point. And now instead of there just being one crazy asshole, there's fucking three of them. Whereas if one person had just stepped in, or somebody had stepped in and said, shut the fuck up, and punched that person in the face, the other two guys might have went, oh yeah, I guess he had that coming.
Yeah.
When you come to the internet, that there isn't really a punch in the face button.
Yeah. Well,
when the public square is controlled by one ideology, it's a fucking problem.
When the illusion of multiple ideologies exist, that's a problem.
Well, I mean, I think there's sadly there's only two, like, basically.
Right.
And the one being suppressed at the moment can be rather dangerous, and it's scary.
Yeah. That's the thing. Like, I kind of laugh about, not to tie any kind of political anything to this, but it's almost entertaining to think about how much people lost their fucking minds at the previous election, and then you look at what the aftermath of this one was, and it was just like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if like people on the far right are more just level-headed. Like, I'm not trying to say,
No, I know what you're saying.
you get what I mean? Like,
I know what you mean.
I'm not saying even we. I just said we. Like, I have no political. I'm a fucking moron when it comes to politics. But from an outside perspective, I know people on the far right and I know people on the far left. Not to the extremes, but pretty far. Like opposite directions. And it's funny to me to see how they reacted to the same thing. Your person didn't win, so you did what? Oh, you protested and you fucking gave up on half your family online and you fucking did all this. And then it's like, oh, what did you do on the right here? What was your decision? Oh, you didn't do anything. You're just pissed. Okay. Like that's kind of how I feel about this. Like, no,
I think you're right. I think you're 100% right.
I'm getting in trouble for even expressing that. So,
well, that's what I'm saying though, right? Like it's so frustrating, and it's like people. The parties have gone. There are so few. The people on the right will have you think that everybody on the left is fucking Looney Tunes, right?
Mm-hmm.
They'll have you believe that everybody's Antifa, and they're not. Okay, and people on the left will think everybody.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, and people on the left will think everybody hates immigrants and wants all the Mexican children to die, even though they're not doing so well right now on the border. I just had to put that in there. And then make you think that, they're all like these Bible thumping Christians and they're old and that's not true either, or capitalist pigs and shit like that. Like they'll have you think, and so few people, most people just want to fucking live in their fucking life and get through without the bullshit. And it's like, unfortunately, now we're all drugging. We all have to pick a side. At some point, it's going to turn to that. I hope not, but I feel like it's going to.
I'm going to stay right in the middle like I always do.
They won't let you.
No, I think, no, more people. I was talking about independent voting for fucking ever. I remember getting into a great debate with my older brother about this because he's just like, yeah, you can, but it's a wasted vote. It's like, yeah, it is because of that mentality. Because everyone is so fucking tied into believing. But what would you do if everyone was just like, you know what, this time I'm going to do it? Everyone in the whole country is just like, fuck this, we're checking out right down the center. You take an independent vote, then what the fuck are you going to do when the numbers come in? And like unanimous decision for an independent. What do you do then? What the fuck do you do? But how do you get there? Where are you going, Scott?
He's got to go pee.
Okay.
I could see his ball sack growing. I think it was filling up with pee.
You just see like a fucking line of piss come up. He's just peeing on himself because he doesn't want to leave.
He's got little holes breaking through his bag.
Do you remember that toy? Maybe you didn't have a joyous childhood like me, but one of the neighborhood kids had this helmet that you would wear with all these pins in it, and you'd pull a pin out, and there's a water balloon in there. Sooner or later, you just.
I know what you're talking about.
What fun! You just get woo, get a splash of water. And then
I haven't seen something like that in a long time,
dude. There's a few toys of my childhood that I wish I had, but you know how dumb that would be? That was like Mark's story with that shark game. The shark that like chased the fish in a circle.
Shark Attack?
Yeah. He like finally bought it. He's like, oh, I can't wait to fucking play this.
Oh man, it wasn't good, was it?
We sat down, we're all jacked up, but the shark moved too fast. Like we all like tried to move as quick fast as it could. It was like within 10 seconds it ate us all. Just like what the fuck? So no, I think about that water balloon game, and I think about It from the Pit once in a while, and Forbidden Bridge. Those are like my jam fucking board games.
I don't remember Forbidden Bridge.
Forbidden Bridge was this like you had to grab these rubies, and then your little guy crossed the bridge, and it would shake, and he would like try to hang on, and you had to bring like 3 rubies all the way across.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't know that one.
Welcome back, Scott.
Hey, I'm back.
So we were just talking about your nutsack exploding and peeing everywhere. It's fine.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think this was a good one. I don't know what, like, we could sit here and bitch for hours on all this stuff and kind of take a stance of trying to change the world. But unfortunately, until people really just kind of recognize that, like,
It's not happening.
it's not healthy. We're not in a healthy state of being
So-
like.
Let me. I mean, do you feel? Let me ask you this: do you feel that people will get it right at some point?
Not for a long time.
No.
I think we're like 18 elections away from like something major happening where it's like, the weirdest thing is like when Barack Obama got elected, that was like, that gave, not because he was this great president or anything. Like I voted for him the first time, but not the second. But not because of that, but the fact that he got elected that was a pretty powerful statement in our country.
He got elected by quite a margin.
Right. And you think about like, his name, and his, being African American and fucking getting elected. Like that was that felt like a powerful election where you couldn't make that argument anymore. Cause that was always a thing. Like, oh, you could never have a black president. Well, we did, we could have a woman president. That's not an impossibility. I don't think general people think that way. I don't think there's the only people that I fucking get annoyed with are mostly really strong politicized people, or whether it's way right or left. You're both fucking too much for me. I got unfriended by family members, by the way, because of not being in the middle, I guess, or like asking them questions about stuff. And it's like, I've never seen such a pussy, petty fucking like, fuck you, I'm unfriending you because you questioned me. Like, are you fucking serious? Are you really that serious? Go ahead.
Sorry. In my experience, this is probably one of the most polarizing times that I've ever lived through. Like there is no middle ground anymore. Everyone expects you to be one way or the other way. There is no gray area anymore.
But we all are, though. It's the internet illusion that has that feeling on you. I think political debate and being, having arguments on holidays and everything, I think that's all normal shit that every family goes through for decades. Because
I think it's just more polarizing now than it's ever been, though.
I think it's the internet fooling you to thinking it.
Well, you're right. I think you're right, but the difference is that the internet, it's fooling us, but it's happening. Like it's fooling us, but it's not.
It's not any different though. Instead of having the outbreak at Christmas between Uncle Tim and Uncle Jojo, like being mad at each other and throwing fists over beer cans, like you're not getting that because 3 months before that they had a dispute over a fucking political meme. You know what I mean? So like it's all the same kind of. People have their stance. People will die on the hill for their political party, which I'll never understand that mentality. I'm sorry if you're listening to this and you land on one side or the other, and like that's the only way you vote. To me, and I'm really sorry, you're kind of a fucking moron. Like
I agree.
Like you're not going to look at the policies and understand what the person you're electing stands for. Fuck the political party. Just look at everything. Always look at everything. The track record, the history of the person you're electing. Do yourself a favor and try to make an educated vote. That is more important than any of this other shit. Like, let go of the party. Let go of the, because I don't know. Like, I just don't understand that. Like, nobody does research anymore. Facebook and Twitter and TikTok is not research. Like, I'm sorry. It's just not. You don't know what you're fucking looking at. Watching just one news is not research. It's...
Getting into that at the same time, it's like that's how broken our political system is here. It's like every single time it gets to that point, it's like, well, you get to choose your candidate. It's like, kind of.
Well, that's it.
Every year, when it comes down to it, it's like the every time the presidential election comes up, I mean, South Park made a giant joke out of it one year. It's like, what is your actual choice? It's like I keep looking at like the last couple of presidential elections I've looked at it, it's like I don't like any of these people. But I have to choose one of them, essentially. There is no vote. It's not Star Wars. We can't just vote no confidence. and say they need to pick better candidates.
We could.
There's always an independent though that makes usually
you're
they're
battling.
better. They're usually better than your options. That's the funny thing.
They are. But the problem is you're battling what you want to put like a woke. We are woke, right? I think our conversation I feel is woke but you're dealing with a mob mentality for the most part. The people who do go out and vote. Here's a problem with the middle movement is that there's so many frustrated people, they don't vote.
That was That was me this year.
Yeah, that was me too.
You hate every candidate so thoroughly that you're just like, that's your vote of no confidence.
There's one that I wanted to vote for. That would have had my vote, but I didn't even feel like going to do it. So, plus it was COVID, I was trying to be safe. That's a whole other thing that I probably shouldn't even have said the word. We're going to get to. We literally said a lot of the no words that YouTube allows not you to use.
But you see what I'm saying though? Even that, right?
Yeah, even that. But
that's a problem, dude.
Well, that's a big debated issue going on right now. Like you can't say SHOT. You have to say the poke. You can't talk about that. You could barely mention the Mariah Carey disease. You can barely talk about the bad people of World War II. Like all those things are blocked, and you will get demonetized, and your content will not go out as far because you mentioned that.
Do people realize how dangerous that is?
That's a form of censorship.
But it's also a privately run.
Are they though?
I don't know.
Has YouTube become
that's what Josh was getting at earlier, I think, is the fact that this is a form of media.
It's a public square.
And by controlling what goes onto it, it's like
there's other ones out there though that claim to be more wild west.
Yeah,
but we at some point
by threatening to demonetize or take away, it's like I can understand. It's like if it came out and it was watched, and it's like the entire world in unison just went, yeah, this guy's nuts.
Here. I'm putting this here in a nutshell. If YouTube or Facebook or any other social media platform want to censor content, then they have to be liable to be sued and stop enjoying First Amendment luxuries where they're protected by the government. For if someone goes on there and says something horrible and shoots a bunch of people up, they get a free pass. Well, like you have places like super liberal content or super conservative content who have to go in and curate and edit. That's why a lot of places don't have comment pages anymore, because they're being liable to sue because they're saying something, and in return of them saying something, they may be responsible for it. By YouTube, they're saying something by making censorship on specific issues that slight towards a political leaning. If they're going to do that, then they need to stop enjoying the comforts of the First Amendment. And they are a completely private entity. And the government needs to fucking treat them as such. I'm cool with that. But see, they're treated as a public speaking forum, but they don't treat the users that way. And that's the problem.
Damn.
Shit.
God damn. You just fucking slayed it down.
Josh Wakely, 2024. That'd be a day in hell.
All right, I think we got enough bitching out in general on this one. It was good to revisit this one. The first time we tried to talk about this shit, we were talking about 50 different topics.
Yeah, I know. Kind of honed it in a little bit.
All right, guys. This is I'm going to play the outro, and you guys have a good night. We're not even going to rate this one. We're just going to let it go. Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye.